Hey, have you ever been held back? Have you ever said no to something that you really wanted to do because you doubted yourself? I get you. It's overwhelming and sometimes it can be physically painful, but you know what? You don't have to live there. There are ways to avoid it. There are ways to do things differently. There's some strategies I'm going to share with you today so you don't have to live in that as a permanent state. Hey, Christine here. I am so excited to be sharing with you today some strategies to help you not necessarily defeat self-doubt, but to be able to manage it. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, everyone is faced with self-doubt. And I find it really interesting, fascinating almost, because at the end of the day, we were all born with confidence. I mean, when was the last time you saw, a little kid learning to walk, stop learning or stop getting up? Like, as human beings, right? It's in our DNA to learn to drive forward and to really be confident to do the things that we need to do, right? But at the end of the day, we have influences in our lives, relationships, programming when we were kids, parents, teachers, the whole thing. And this has influenced how we handle that self-doubt, right? The kind of beliefs that we build from influences what we believe to be true, which influences our habits and all these kinds of things, right? And so self-doubt is always going to be something that is going to hit us from time to time. Even the people who are the most successful people who are doing all the amazing things, they also experience self-doubt. But the difference is that those people have a strategy, right? And so they can probably, I know they can pull themselves out of self-doubt really, really fast. Why? Because they take the time to work on themselves every single day, right? It's like saying somebody who's treated their body like garbage for years, they get sick and now they want a magic pill to fix them, right? And just fix everything and make it all better. Now, sometimes that does happen, but most of the time it does not. So at the end of the day, we don't want to be taken by surprise from the self-doubt. We don't want to, find ourselves going for a goal or doing something and that self-doubt hitting us and thinking, it takes us out of the game completely. That's what we do not want, right? And so what can we do on a daily basis to build a foundation on ourselves so that when we do face that self-doubt, it's something that we can manage and it doesn't take us out of our game for too long. Okay, so I hope you're excited because these 3 things I'm going to share with you, I think will really, really be helpful. So why don't you get out a pen and a piece of paper and take some notes. So number 1 is self-care. And there's lots of examples of self-care. Self-care is amazing. It's a hot bath with Epsom salts. Self-care is your favorite meal. Self-care is maybe date night with your partner. Self-care is, time spent with beautiful people that you love. Maybe self-care is going to an art gallery, travel, lying on a beach on a vacation. There's so many examples of self-care that you hear, and all of those things are really important. I mean, who doesn't love a hot bath and maybe a glass of wine at the end of the day, right? Now, the self-care that I want to talk to you about right now is forgiveness. Now that might sound unusual, right? How is forgiveness self-care? It is when you're talking about forgiveness for yourself or to yourself, right? So just think of how many people in your life you have forgiven for things. Maybe a spouse, maybe a friend, a family member, maybe somebody that you met on social media. Like I've made tons of mistakes and I have apologized multiple times for, things that I've done, along my growth, personal growth and my journey into being an entrepreneur. But think of how many times you forgive other people. How many times are you forgiving yourself? Or how many things are you actually still holding against yourself for? There might be 1 or 2. So I want you to get out a piece of paper and I want you to write those down. I want you to get up close and personal for those things. And you know what they are. You know exactly what they are. Maybe you're holding against yourself something that you did years and years ago that you cannot change, right? We don't have the power to change things that happened before right now. We don't have that power. Maybe you're holding against yourself something that you didn't do. Maybe you gave your word to somebody. Maybe you broke someone's trust. Maybe you said you were going to level up in your business or you set a goal, right? There's a lot of women out there that are holding stuff against themselves around goals. Oh, I set a goal that I was going to hit this rank, or I set a goal that I was going to hit this income this month. month. And that plagues us, that self-doubt, and we hold it against ourselves and we don't forgive ourselves. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're holding on to it. And the problem with that is that that takes up energy, it takes up space, and it affects your your vibration, your frequency, all of those things. So it's really, really important to forgive yourself. So I want you to write down whatever that is for you. And then I want you to look yourself in the mirror and forgive yourself wholeheartedly and watch the magic happen. Okay. Number 2 is overcoming fear. Fear is a normal thing. We're born with fear. It's that part of us. It's like the survival mode that will help us run away from a wild dog or a bear, a lion. You know, somebody breaks into your house, you might feel fear, and then that fear launches you into like protection and survival and all those things, right? So fear is not going anyway. There will always be fear. But the thing about fear is that fear is personal, right? So someone's fear of standing on stage might be really easy for somebody else. Someone might be really afraid of getting into new conversations, like going to a networking meeting, right? Maybe they're really introverted. Somebody else who's a very, very much an extrovert who loves meeting new people doesn't think that's fearful at all. So fear is very personal. And the thing is, we can change what we perceive as being fearful, right? How do we do that? Right? We take action. You know, courage always comes before confidence, and that the courage is the sweet spot. If you can have the courage to take action around the things that you feel fearful about, you will build up confidence and you will erode that fear, and you might even eradicate it. So for example, I used to be so afraid of sitting in front of the camera doing like Facebook Lives. I was so afraid I would get nervous every single time. Now, do I never get nervous? No, but it's like walking up the street on the sidewalk for me now. It's like the simplest thing that I do is just get on video and say what I'm going to say. It's because I've had enough courage to do it enough times that is no longer a fear for me. Now I'm a mom, so, you know, I have some fears around my kids who are teenagers and are going out into the world and doing crazy things. That is fearful for me now, right? So you get to decide what your fear is. You get to decide what fears you're going to allow to get in the way, right? And again, it's the fear that contributes to that self-doubt. So be courageous enough to take the action in the areas that you know you need to. So in other words, if you've got a big goal for your business this year, then and you've got fear around video and getting your face out there, then that's probably something that you need to find some courage around to start taking action so that you can eradicate that fear, okay? Number 3 is having a growth mindset, right? This is so important. If you're an entrepreneur, which you likely are, if you're watching me, I am too, having a growth mindset is critical, and it will absolutely help you with your self-doubt, right? Because that's what we're talking about today. So how do you nurture a growth mindset? Well, you can do things like getting out there and learning a new skill, right? Learning new skills will always promote that part of your brain that is tuned into growth, right? So maybe it's speaking a new language, maybe it's picking up a new skill in your business, maybe it's getting some new coaching on something in your life, like maybe it's you know, taking on a new job or a new side gig, right? All of those kinds of things that force you out of your comfort zone to learn something new will absolutely contribute to your growth mindset, right? So new skills, and just having this appreciation and love for constant learning. Okay. People with a growth mindset understand that there's no like end. The journey doesn't end, right? There is no end point. There is no arrival time. The tunnel is the light. The light isn't the end of the tunnel, right? It's this constant evolving and constant growing and constant learning, right? Another part about growth mindset is where someone might see an obstacle, somebody with a growth mindset sees an opportunity. So how are you looking at the obstacles that are in front of you? You should read a book called The Obstacle is the Way. I can't remember who wrote it, really good book. But are you seeing obstacles as something that you can't get through, right? What questions are you asking when you see an obstacle? Like, oh, dang, it's an obstacle and I'll never be able to get through that obstacle. And this is a big challenge. I don't know how to get past it, right? So people who have a growth mindset, which contributes to eradicating that self-doubt, okay, is they ask great questions, right? So what is the best way for me to get around this challenge, right? If I were, you know, somebody who had a growth mindset, if I were somebody who was very successful, what sort of questions would I be asking on how to get through this challenge, right? The quality of the questions that you ask will determine the quality of your life, right? And so how you see obstacles and challenges is a big part of a growth mindset as well, and will absolutely help you smash that self-doubt. So I hope you got some great value from my 3 tips today. You can come find me in my Confidence Collective community over on Facebook. I talk about this stuff all the time, do lots of social media strategy training in there. Next week, I think I'm going to be talking about some limiting beliefs. I hope you come back. We'll see you for week 8 next week. Have a good one.